Okay, got back to work on Sunday. Had a good Sunday to wrap up the Texas game. As every Sunday we came in, we addressed what was good, what was bad, and watched the tape and then told them that that game was over with. There wasn't any time to celebrate. Hopefully everybody that is associated with the program from a fan standpoint had a tremendous day on Saturday, and I hear they celebrated a lot, so hopefully that was good. Had a good time right there. From a program standpoint, we got back Sunday night and quit talking about Texas Sunday night. And from there, their job's to go be students on Monday, get back in here today, get a lift in this morning, and then when we meet in here at 2:30, it's 100% Texas Tech. And so not going to talk much about Texas. Don't want any of the players talking about Texas, that sort of thing. It's all about staying on the grind, and if these guys want to win a championship, then they got to learn how to do that. You can't worry about what happened in the previous game. You got to prepare. The next game's got to be every bit as important as the previous one. We've had three pretty emotional games in a row with Maryland, Baylor, and Texas, and these guys got to understand that's the way of life in college football. And I think right now we got a group that understands that. Hope we got a group that understands that. So everything will be about Texas Tech. Texas Tech's a good football team. They had a setback last week, but they'll be ready to go. That'll probably motivate them even more. It's I see it's their homecoming. I didn't know they played on the road last week, but it'll be their homecoming. They'll be fired up about playing. I know a lot about their program from a fan standpoint. There'll be 60,000 rowdy people there that will be anxious to get a crack at the Mountaineers. So we gotta play well on all three sides of the ball. Defensively, they're one of the top teams in the country. They've given up 200 yards a game. So people haven't moved the ball on them, and we were in here yesterday for about 16 hours trying to figure out creative ways to be able to get first downs. They do a good job against the run. They do a good job against the pass. They create turnovers, and we're going to have to offensively play as good as we've played all year. Offensively, they run a similar system to what we do. Known their coaches for quite some time and been to a bunch of different clinics together, and they do a lot of the same stuff that we do, which is pretty similar to what Oklahoma does, which is pretty similar to Oklahoma State. So there's a lot of teams that do a lot of the same stuff. They vary their tempo. They go fast. They can slow it down if they want to. They use tight ends. They use fullbacks. They screen. They want to establish the run. They got good skill at receiver, really good skill at receiver. They got 2 to 3 backs that can really go. They got a quarterback that's a veteran that understands the system and understands the game of football. Coach's kid, been around there for a long time and is used to making plays. So it'll be a challenge for us. We got to get to work here and prepare like as hard as we ever have. Take some questions.
How are they different under Art than they were last year defensively? I know they got a bunch of new guys, some junior college guys on the defense. How are they different?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you really. I didn't study a whole lot of their stuff from last year because it's a new coordinator. Went against them 3 years ago when I was at Oklahoma State. It was a different coordinator, even different than the coordinator that was last year. They've had 4 or 5 different defensive coordinators in 4 or 5 years. Went against them 3 years ago under a different coordinator. So I don't know. There's enough material on what they do. They're not very tricky. They're very, very, very sound, and they're never out of position, and they're not very tricky. They blitz 8% of the time. So they're not a try to trick you defense. They're not a gimmick defense. They're a sound effort defense. They play hard, and their guys are in position, and they're technically sound. So, that poses problems. It poses problems when you don't know what they're going to do, and that aggravates you from a game planning standpoint. From a we know what they're going to do standpoint, we can come up with a bunch of plays, but it's just hard to execute against them. So. The difference, I would say, going back to 3 years ago, the difference is they're sound and they play hard. When I was at Oklahoma State and went there, they weren't sound and they didn't play hard, but now they do.
When you think about a Tommy Tuberville coach team, what are some of the things that stick out to you?
I've only won against them once, so I can just base it on what I see on film this year, and what I see on film this year is play hard, sound defense. You know, they're not used to giving up many points, not used to giving up very many yards. What they do offensively now is a lot different than what he's done in the past. So, you know, I know what they do offensively, and like I said, they're going to tempo you. They're going to run the ball. They're going to get the ball in space. We got to do a good job of tackling on space. So they're going to pose a bunch of problems.
From your experience in dealing with the grind of the Big 12 season that you were talking about, is physical toll on bodies or the mentally staying tuned in every day the harder aspect of having success throughout a Big 12 season, and what do you do to get that through to your guys?
Well, I don't know. You got some tricks, let me know. Nobody's quite figured it out, I think, from a coaching standpoint. You got to have routine. These guys got to understand what's at stake, and then you got to have a bunch of seniors that understand it, that can handle it. You know, hopefully, I think we got a bunch of seniors that can handle it. The game's physical. I mean, every game you play in is physical. So you got to try to stay healthy and do things to keep your body in shape, such as go to treatments and, you know, eat good and lift good and recover and sleep at night and all that stuff. I mean, you got to do that from a physical standpoint. From a mental standpoint, you got to stay focused. You got to handle all your business away from here. But when you come in here at 2:30, you got to be focused and ready to go and understand that everybody that you play can beat you. And if you think you can take anything for granted, then you get beat. Period.
And in the Louisville game last year, you pointed out the sideline energies difference to your team was Saturday night. Something you looked at and pointed out, but conversely for the good part, though.
Yeah, I thought we were good. I thought we were good. You know, we talked all week about playing with the sense of urgency and creating our own energy on the sideline, which is two things that you must have when you play on the road. And this week, we need to play with a sense of urgency, and we need to create our own energy on the sideline because it's a road game, not because of who we played, but because it's strictly a road game. And we addressed that after Louisville because we didn't have that on our sidelines, but we went to Cincinnati and we had that, and that's continued since then. I've been happy about it. I could tell from a sense of urgency standpoint, I made reference to this on Monday, that our guys were ready to play. And anytime you have to drag them out of the locker room and say 3 or 4 times, such and such, you know, O-line, it's time to go out, or receivers or specialists or whatever, if you have to say it 2 or 3 times, then your guys aren't ready to go. So we didn't even have to say it. They looked at the board and they knew what time to be out there, and they were out there before they were supposed to be out there, and we had to drag them off the field. So, you know, they played with a sense of urgency, and then our sidelines were good. There was a lot of excitement, and, you know, the stuff that was going on. It was a great environment, but we created our own energy.
Coach, you talked a little bit about routine. Can you talk about the challenges of traveling all the way to Texas 2 weeks in a row? Do you have to put special attention on the players' routines or anything like that?
It's probably a little easier than driving to Cincinnati, or it's the same as driving or flying to Florida, or it's an hour longer than driving or flying to Rutgers or any of that. It's the same. I mean, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes over there, and it's 2 hours and 15 minutes back. So we're on a plane probably an extra hour. So the routine is no different. I don't view it as a big deal. We had 0 glitches. It was no different in my mind. Maybe an hour longer, which, how's that a big deal? But it wasn't any different. Probably a little different for some of you guys going commercial, but from a charter standpoint, it didn't affect us.
Dan, I covered a Pete Rose's hitting streak, for example. He's hitting 44 straight games, and that permeated everything. You've got Gino with that no interception streak. How do you keep that from becoming part of the picture? And also a 9-game winning streak, I guess, too.
Yeah, you're a big streak guy, huh?
Yeah, I go streaking a lot.
Jesus.
I would not want to see that. I can't imagine anybody in this room wants. I don't know if you had listened on Monday when this was addressed, but the first step is to not talk about it. And obviously, when it comes to you guys, we're going to want to talk about it. You know, it's you know, from the interception thing. I mean, if you think he's the only one that can control that, you're nuts. And I know it's his stat, but everybody else can help control that. We don't talk about it. I mean, we talk about completions, and putting the ball where you need to be putting the ball. So from whatever play we're in, I mean, his job's to go here, here, and here, then his job's to go here, here, and here, and throw it to the open guy. So, and then once, the protection's got to be good. We got to run the ball good to keep some heat off of Gino as far as having to throw the ball into 8 people that are dropping. When the ball's in the air, it's up to the receiver to attack it and make sure it's theirs and not theirs, and make sure it's ours and not theirs. So there's a lot of things that go into it that we coach, and we will continue to coach those.
And on the same thing, is it, Gino himself knows that streak is going on and probably thinks about it every once in a while. Do you have any concerns there? I mean, he's going to say, no, I never think about it, but it has to be in there where he maybe not get to the point where he doesn't take chances or doesn't do
He doesn't think about it throughout the game, I can assure you. I mean, he's so tuned into what his job is and getting us in the right play and being competitive and looking at the scoreboard to see what we got to do to win the game and how much time we got left and creating energy on the sidelines and cheering on the O-line and cheering on the defense and patting the receivers on the back. He's got a lot more on his plate than worrying about some silly little streak that doesn't mean anything. He's probably going to throw an interception at some point. Hopefully that one interception doesn't have doesn't hurt us from winning the game, because winning the game is a whole lot more important to Geno Smith than some little streak that you guys talk about but we don't talk about.
They have 8 guys that have caught touchdown passes this year. What are some of the issues in the passing game? 8 different guys that caught touchdown passes this year, Texas Tech.
Yeah, they play a lot of guys. They play a lot of guys. The good news is they can only play 5 eligible receivers at once. They can't play all 8 of those guys, so they can play. They like to play 4 receivers and a back, or they like to play 2 backs and 3 receivers, or 2 backs, a tight end, and 2 receivers. I mean, we just got to figure out what their personnel groups is and cover the guys that are eligible. Doesn't matter which ones they are. They got a bunch of good ones. We're not fortunate to be deep like that. They're fortunate to be deep like that, but where they're distributing a lot of their balls to 8 different guys, we're doing it with 3 or 4 guys.
When you saw the scene unfolding on campus here after the Texas win, what was your reaction to that, like seeing what went on here?
I didn't hear about it until probably Monday. I didn't see any of it. I mean, I worry about what I can control, and what I can control is what was happening in Austin, getting our guys, focused for the game, play the game, getting them ready to get on a plane and fly back here, and getting them to understand that we show up on Sunday and put it to the rest. So I think we got home somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3:30. So I don't know what was happening at that point.
You've been, just not to drag you into this, but you've had opinions about the fans before, and it sounds like you know a little bit of what went on. Does that bother you at all, what happened Saturday night back here?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what happened. I heard there was riots in Mace.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why or I'm being honest with you. I'm pretty focused in on what we're supposed to be doing, which was, even if I know about it, what am I going to do about it? I mean, that's not my responsibility. So, if it had anything to do with some sort of a special win, then I would encourage everybody involved to get used to wins like that. Was that a big win for the program? Yes. Was it good for recruiting and branding and all the rest of it? Absolutely. Does it count as a championship? No. It counts as one win. It counts as the same win as Baylor did, which is the same win as Marshall did minus the conference standing. So our goal is to win the conference. We're 2-0. Those 2 wins were equal. There was no difference in the Texas win as it was the Baylor win. And if we're fortunate to prepare hard and get our guys ready to play, travel smartly and safely and go beat Texas Tech, and that's gonna count as a win too, which is one more win towards winning a championship. So I don't understand what was so special about it if they were using that as some sort of an excuse to get rowdy. Does that answer your question?
Very well.
Talk about the trap game, and I know that you just said every game means exactly the same thing in the grand scheme of things. Do you say anything to them to try to make sure they don't have the trap game, occur at all, or is it sort of the nature of a new conference that every game is exciting, you're going on the road, you don't expect that to be an issue at all?
I don't know what a trap game means, to be honest with you. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, to go from the big environment that you have at Texas and know that you have a top 5 team coming in the next week, and then you've got the perceived lesser of the 3 opponents, and that's just a perception, but you could clearly take that.
Did you feel like our game against Baylor from an atmosphere standpoint was good?
Thought so.
That'd be like it was at Texas Tech. They got 60-some thousand people that care about their football, and I would assume that'd be pretty rowdy as well. So that's the beauty about being in the Big 12, is every game's like that. Now, was Texas a little bit above and beyond based on 101,000? Yes. Coach Brown even said it was the greatest environment ever. Well, that environment exists. We need to get used to being in those type of environments and having those type of games, which is pretty cool. That's why we want to be in the Big 12. So if they thought that was fun, then get ready. We got another one this week. I can't wait. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if anybody else did. I mean, I had fun. Our players had fun. The 10,000 fans that we brought, which I underestimated, thought there'd be 5. Somehow we figured out a way to find 5 more thousand tickets, which is great, but that was great. So I think they found it fun. So if they all thought that was fun and Baylor was fun, then we'll probably have a good time this weekend. I don't understand what a trap game means. You play the same every week. If you don't have the ability to understand that every week is the same, and that we got to be able to trust our players and coaches and everybody that's involved to be able to do the same thing every week, you get beat. Whether it's a trap game or a quote-unquote big game, they're a game. All it is a game. Prepare the same way and have the ability to play your best every week.
Coach, Bowie's production been steadily increasing since he filled in for Sean, and obviously a big breakout game for him last week. Do you feel like he's proven he can be that consistent moving forward?
Looks like it to me. The concern is the wear and tear. As I've mentioned 100 times, for running backs, the wear and tear is a little bit different than a quarterback or a receiver or a corner or a safety that doesn't take that all the time. He carried it 31 times, so we got popped 31 times, but then he's blocking, which is hard, and then he runs routes, which is taxing. I mean, he got out in the open field 3 times in the pass game. Everybody wanted him to score that one time, including me, but the wear and tear is something to be concerned with, which is why we got to continue to get Dustin healthy, we got to continue to get Sean healthy, and we got to get those guys ready to go and take over for Bowie if Bowie gets nicked. So.
And is there any progress with Sean Alston, and are there any issues other than his titles?
No, that's the only issue, and he's, like I said last week, and we gave it a go for a couple days, it didn't work, didn't travel him, so I said he's out. Same thing, he stayed home, got treatment Friday, Saturday, got treatment Sunday, yesterday. He's been in there getting treatment today, so we'll see what he looks like out there today.
Back to their defense, I think you said they blitz 8% of the time, is that right? That sounds like a little bit compared to what you've seen recently, and I would think that would be harder to do things against, but you sounded like you were as concerned about them rushing their 4 guys and just covering and trying really hard. What's the difference and what's the challenge with this compared to a team just rushing like you've seen?
Well, when you blitz, you're obviously taking chances. Blitzing means taking chances. Pressuring means taking chances because you're putting people out of position to help you prevent the score if you put the ball in play. So by not doing that, that means they're covering more ground. They got more people in coverage. If you happen to complete the ball, they got more people going to the ball. They're in position to make plays. So we'll probably have a little bit longer to throw the ball. Not that they don't do a good job with their pass rush. They rush 4 and do a good job. At times they go 3. So there's challenge. Every defense poses challenges. Every defense we scheme to attack, and you put people in position to be successful. Hopefully we do.
Does any specific player on Texas Tech's defense stand out, or is it more of a overall team effort?
They play quite a bit of people. Their safeties are the guys that always show up. 12 and 16. They're 2 safeties. They've been around there for a long time. They're both seniors. those are the two guys on defense that I remember from when I prepared against them 4 years ago and 3 years ago. So those are the guys I remember. They're big kids. They come downhill a lot. They're two leading tacklers. Other than that, they play a lot of people. They, play several different backers, and they rotate their D line in there quite a bit. So much like what they're doing at receiver.
Well, a lot of the talk on the Big 12 call this Monday was on the tempo in that conference is why a lot of points are being scored, and a lot of it was coming out of the no-huddle offense, which you use quite often, other than when you're just letting the clock run down. What's the is yours different than others, and how do you get communication and keep it from being stolen and all that?
We're creative with our signals and sign language and verbiage. Just got to be creative with it. I mean, everybody's doing the same thing, and everybody tempos. I mean, Texas varied their tempo. Texas Tech slowed their tempo, but they still have the ability to be able to fastball you. So everybody at the college games got to the point to where some people, rarely do some people just do what Baylor did, where they're going to snap it at 32 seconds every time. That's rare. What Oregon does is that's what they do. That's pretty rare. A lot of other teams just vary it, and what we do is I just gauge it based on how I feel like the game's going. Every game goes differently, and if we feel like we need to speed it up, we do. If we feel like we need to slow it down, we do. I think they've slowed their tempo. Texas Tech has. It used to be it was fast paced. They ran 120 plays against A&M last year.
Give me an example, not that you use, but what you might use, like when you say your verbiage or
I can't do that.
Well,
You have a pen in your hand. There's got to be some secrets. I'm pretty open with you guys, but there's got to be some secrets. So,
Dan, the wear and tear on your defensive backs, you said there's not a lot. Is it different with Joseph, the way he runs up and just throws himself at people? And
it can be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a physical game. It's no different than what we talked about as a running back spot. I mean, the more physical you are, I mean, you got to be able to handle it. Tough guys can handle that. You need tough guys that can be physical, that can withstand the grind of being able to do it again the next week. And then there's the obvious recovery aspect of things as well. I mean, guys that take treatment serious and take the weight room serious from a recovery standpoint, and the nutritional aspect of things, the sleep at night, not being bad to your body, so to speak, all that stuff plays a part of that. And that's our job as coaches to get that across to them.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
All right, guys, we'll see you.